of the biggest draw in the Midwest, or it was back then. You know, you drive to Columbus, Ohio, you go to the Arnold Classic, you see all the people you see in the magazines, you know, the big powerlifters like George Halbert and all the Westside Barbell guys and everything were competing there.
Mm.
And Dave Tate and George Halbert and Kenny Patterson and Louie Simmons are walking out of the bench bash where George Halbert had just bench pressed 766 at 220. And I had just watched it on the screen. And they're all walking out and they don't give two shits about being at the Arnold. They hate the fucking place. They don't want to talk to people because to them it's a bunch of posers. You know, it's like they're like the Hell's Angels of powerlifting.
Yeah.
And so imagine a 19-year-old kid wanting to walk up and talk to Louis when these guys look like they just got out of jail and would beat the shit out of you for, you know, for looking at them wrong.
Yeah.
And people would just get out of the way. And so my buddy Brad Sheward's nubbing me, and he's like, "You got to go talk to Louis because you're not going to get any stronger if you stay in Indiana." And you know, at this time, I had just won a world championship as a teenager, so I'm thinking maybe I can break records. Like maybe I can do this at like the pro level. And so I finally get the sack to go up and talk to Louis, and he's asking me what my numbers are, and he's kind of looking me up and down, and he's like, "Well, get your fucking ass over here one of these days, and you can come train with us," you know. And I'm like,
Nice.
"Awesome."
Yeah.
So you know, it's a 2.5 hour, almost 3 hour drive one way to get to Louis' gym. So I'm in another state, you know, and so about a week and a half later, I show up at Westside Barbell, and the crew's training there, and they train at 8 in the morning. Well, that's a 3 hour drive, so I'm getting up at 4:30 in the morning to go and train with the guys in Columbus, right? Having to borrow my mom's car, driving to another state. I mean, this is shit like a 19-year-old kid wouldn't have thought of back in 1999, right? Barely had cell phones, and I don't even think I had a cell phone at the time. And so I get over there, and I don't realize what I'm stepping into. So there's a huge guy there. His name is Tilt. He's a big 400 plus black guy that's just a fucking monster. And he was fat, but he was super strong too. And we got into doing those tricep rollbacks that Louis always liked to do off the floor.
Yeah.
And this was after we were doing our main lift. And we start with 60s or like 30 kg. So we start with 30 kg in each arm. Each of us get 10. Louis like, go up another set. So we go up to like 70s or like 35 kg. We hit those for 10. We go up to like 40 kg. We go up to 50 kg. Now we're doing these with 100-pound dumbbells. And what I don't realize is that Louis is testing not only me, he's testing this guy Tilt to see what his competitive nature is. Because if this teenage kid that underweighs him by 120 pounds beats his ass on this exercise, unbeknownst to me, he's going to throw him out of the gym.
Mm.
So we're doing this with 100-pound dumbbells, and I get like 8, and he gets like 6. Well, a week or so later, I come back to lift with him again, and the big guy's gone. And I'm like, Louis, where's the guy I worked out with yesterday? You beat him the last time you were here. He's kicked out. You're taking his place.
Damn.
Yeah.
That was the competition level that we had at that gym. I mean, it was like
No wonder that
that. But
was.
then I also knew that I was always on the chopping block,
Mm.
and that, you know, I had to bring 100% every time I came to the gym. It
Yeah.
wasn't like you paid a gym due and like, you know, you just showed up and gave half-ass effort. It was like every day was a fucking war.
Mm.
And that's when I started to realize like that's probably what's going to make me a champion.
Westside. Do you have any like crazy stories from Westside Barbell? You know, back in the day, because
Well, that yeah.
I've heard that you used to punch on there and like all sorts of shenanigans would go on. You know.
Yeah, I remember Dave Tate's squat session. Um I had lifted in this crew before, so I didn't get wrapped up in it, thank God. But Dave and I want to believe Chuck Vogelpool were having a basically a see who taps out first squat session. And so what they would do was they didn't do it by increasing weight; they did it by how many sets.
Mm.
And by about they were doing singles or doubles at that time. And by set 22, I had to go fucking home. It was something insane. They were doing like over 20 sets of squats just
Yeah.
to see who would puke or who would give up first.
Yeah.
And yeah, and sometimes, like I said, sometimes that level of competitiveness is an advantage, and sometimes it's a massive disadvantage.
Mm.
I can tell you this: for the handful of years, which were almost 10, that I was at Westside Barbell, at least as either a part-time member or a full-time member, I saw more impressive things in the gym at Westside Barbell than I did in competition, which tells you that the training could have been better. Meaning that we would get so competitive in the gym, we'd forget we had a meet in 6 weeks and we'd fry ourselves to the fucking ground. Right. But probably a couple of the most impressive things that I ever saw was one was Chuck Vogelpool beating Vlad Hasselhoff, the squatter. They were doing 2 blues and a silver, which is 550 pounds of band tension. And Chuck had 850 pounds in weight, and Vlad could not get it. And I remember Vlad trying it because he was so mad that Chuck beat him. Vlad tried it 3 fucking times, and every time he did it, we had to peel it off of his ass.
Shit.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. Chuck wins the training session, right? 5 weeks later, case in point, 5 weeks later, we go to the meet. Vlad squats the all-time world record of 1250, and Chuck bombs the fuck out. So what did all that do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of hard, you know.
You learn. And I tell you what, it was weird because the last, 10 years or so of my competitive career, I didn't have Louie to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah.
I had to be a self-master. I had to understand what I was feeling, what I was going through. And it was interesting because a lot of the training partners I had at the time, and Big Rob was one of them, they were willing to do whatever it took to get me the best I could be. It wasn't a selfish endeavor. They knew they were there to have me break world records. Now, they got better as well, but they always knew. And I set them down and told them, like, the focus on this training cycle has nothing to do with you getting better. It's everything that has to do with me breaking world records. So you're either going to help me with that or you're going to get the fuck out of my gym.
Yeah. That would have been really satisfying as well when you left. And then, without being disrespectful to Westside, basically you smoked them. You know what I mean? You left and then you jumped up another level because it would have validated everything that you were saying.
I look back at it now and I'm glad that I did that, but I'm not proud of the way that I did it. I did it like putting 2 middle fingers in front of Louie's face almost. I kept that pretty cordial in the public, but when we would run into each other occasionally in around town, it was an awkward, frictionless situation. And I remember 2022, I get this package in the mail, and so 4 years ago roughly, and I open it, and it says it's from Westside Barbell. So I'm wondering if it's a fucking bomb or some C4, right? They're gonna do a Muslim attack on me. And so I open it up, and it's a book. It's the book that Louie had just finished recently, and he wrote in it. And I got pictures I could send you if you ever want to post it. And it's like,
for sure.
Dear Matt, proud of all your accomplishments and your lifting records. Glad to call you my friend. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Because we were almost like throwing blows. I got pictures of the magazine, the Powerlifting USA at the time, where Louie's having to hand me like $20,000 because I was best heavyweight, best squat, and world record total at his meet.
Yeah.
And I remember taking the money from him while they're taking the picture. And I'm like, I told you I was going to come back and take all your fucking money and make you look like shit, you motherfucker, is what I said to him when I took the money. And then I did it again the next year.
Yeah.
And that was when I had really drew the nail in the coffin of us not really having a relationship anymore, because I moved over to Columbus with nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like your dad throwing you out of the house for an argument about how to train smart when you're doing it the right way and people are all getting better and they don't want to listen because it's not his idea. It's like you never let the student outshine the master is what happened. And
isn't that
that sucks. So I get the book and I call him. Yeah. I'm like, okay, fuck it. Maybe he wants to reach out. Maybe he wants to talk. I call him, I leave a message, and within a week, the fire departments that I train, they work his area, and they went and picked him up. He was dead in his house.
Oh, shit.
So I think he knew he was dying, and he kind of tried to make amends before that happened.
Yeah. Well, it's like, as hard as it is, at least you got that, like he obviously still thought highly of you. He still cared about you to do that. So.
Yeah. Yeah, Louie was a very complex person.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely sounded like a legend. I would have loved to have met him. I love going off what I hear. I love the environment of that gym. You know, I like the sound of it.
I
Yeah,
think you would
it's
have
one
fit
thing
right
to
in.
see it. Yeah, it's one thing to see it from a distance. It's another thing to visit and
Yeah.
see it in person for a short time.
Yeah.
But it's a whole nother environment to live it.
Live.
And then you
Yeah.
start seeing the cracks in the fucking Swiss cheese. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely. So you sort of come in at the prime of it, and then you seen the cracks at the end, just pushing too
Yeah,
hard.
yeah. Well, the big thing that Louie and I really disagreed with is me having talks with Verkashansky, and there were a couple other factors that went down, which I could cliff notes. One, I was hired by the Cleveland Browns, our professional football team, and I never ended up working a day, but I was hired, and Louis saw that as well. As soon as Matt gets a good, high-paying job, he's out of here. So then he sees I'm not like fully vested in Westside Barbell, which I was, but like I just got out of school as a master's student, and somebody's offering you 150,000 US a year to train a pro football team. What the fuck are you going to do?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. I mean, I had to like take that as a professional leap in my career, but I never ended up working a day because the entire coaching staff got fired before I even started the job. But that started the process. The next thing that started the process is that I was reaching out to Verkashansky in Italy, and I was having him help me break down what we were doing and how to improve it, which I thought Louis would take as awesome, that I was reaching out to someone and actually getting feedback on our system and what we had translated correctly and what we had not translated correctly. And Verkashansky was like, I would do it this way. You guys are equipped lifters. I don't know anything about that. But what I can tell you is that also opens up the door for multiple environments. And I'm like, how so? And he goes, you could 1 week train completely raw, the next week train with a little bit of gear, and the next week train all the gear. And then you could go heavy week in and week out because there's 3 different environments. And I'm like, holy shit, that's a really good idea, because what people don't realize is we were starting to lose muscle mass because Louis wanted us to train in gear all the time. Suits, shirts, raw work was kind of thrown out the window other than speed day. And so I bring that back to Louis, and Louis is like, that's not going to fucking work. That's fucking stupid, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I'm going to fucking try it. So 2006, maybe early 7, I have Greg do it with me, and both Greg and I hit the second or the third highest total of all time, took somebody's name off the record board at Westside Barbell, and Greg broke the world record following what we were doing. So then the next cycle, the whole everybody. And Louis, it's one of those days that we're just training in a belt, right? And working on muscle mass. And we're doing heavy triples instead of doubles or singles, so the volume's a little higher. And Greg and I are working up to like 765 or like 320 kg for a fucking triple in a belt. Louis is in his mid-late 50s at the time, and he has to put on a bunch of gear just to hang with us raw, which pissed him off. And he's like, I don't know why you're fucking doing that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm all fucking hyped up because the workouts are grueling. And I'm like, dude, listen, if you want to have an argument about this situation, I'm all for it. But let's do it after we fucking train. I don't want to talk about how my squat, when I'm the one that just squatted 1,085 and you haven't squatted, you've never even squatted 1,000, you know? So I'm being an asshole. But like, he'd do that to us all the time. So I'm like, all right, motherfucker, you're getting it back. Well, that really pissed him off. And then within the next week or so, he comes into my office, because I had an office at Westside Barbell because I train people. And he's like, I don't think it's working out between you and I, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, so you're fucking kicking me out of the gym, even though I'm making performance and Greg's getting better and the entire crew's getting better. You're fucking mad because it's not your idea. And that's when I realized, like, I wasn't in the right spot. Well, I had contemplated quitting powerlifting completely. This is early 2007 or late 2007, early 2008. And that's when Chuck calls me, because Chuck had already left. He'd already got pissed off at Louis, and he took off and went to a little gym called Lexington. And Chuck hears that Louis had kicked me out, and he ends up calling me. And he's like, hey, I heard Louis fucking went off on you for actually doing your job and being better. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's fucked up. He's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know, man. I might move back home to Indiana, because I didn't have anything really situated here. I was making okay money, but enough to pay my bills, have enough to eat
Mm.
and train, but I didn't have anything extra. And he's like, fuck all that shit. He's like, come down here and train with us. We'll keep it all low key. We won't tell anybody what we're doing, and we'll show up at their meet in 9 months and beat the fuck out of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like game fucking on. So that's when that whole Westside versus the World thing
Yeah.
started, that documentary. And you can
That's a
see it
great
all play out.
documentary.
And it's actually 100% truthful,
Yeah.
you know.
That my favorite part of that documentary is, what was it? Like Louis had a heart attack or something, right? And he was in the hospital. And was it Chuck picked him up, and as they're leaving, they're like, "We're going to the gym, and you're fucking maxing out."
Well, I did 735 low box squat in the gym, and I felt my knee slide. Chuck said, "Take another one." I said, "Put it on." So I put on 760, and I walked it out with my kneecap in half. I had heard 12 patellas break in half. I heard them sound like a broomstick, and little did I know I'd never hear my own snap in half, but I did. Yeah, they operated on me within 2 hours. I told them I'm allergic to anesthesia. It was a 3.5 hour operation, awake the whole time. I was off crutches in like 7-8 weeks, walking around. I was already starting to squat again. The second surgery, see, is where it went wrong. I went back in to get the wires taken out. I was supposed to be home within 4 hours of the whole episode. They gave me a shot to calm me down for the surgery. And when I fell asleep, they came in and the anesthesiologist gave me anesthesia. And at that time, I went in convulsions and I didn't breathe for 4 minutes. And I could just feel people like beating me up on top of me, sticking the chest tubes in me and cutting my throat. And, trach me. I was in a medically induced coma for 3 days. And I finally come to, and I'm looking around all these tubes in me, and I look under the covers and my knee's not even operated on. So I instantly get mad. Finally get out, my throat was taped shut and had stitches in my sides. My wife and Chuck Vogapol drive me out of the hospital to the gym, and Vogapol says, "You're maxing out." So I lay down and I bench 350 with a hole in my throat, chest tubes, and my leg in a cast.
And I can remember picking him up off the bench. I mean, he's got a hole. And that's when it tells you, no matter.
Okay. I remember something
Louis,
happening.
Louis
He's
had
like,
his
"You
knee
fucking
scoped, and they
maxing
had
out."
I want to say 8 or 10 stitches in his knee,
Yeah.
where they just went in with those little things, and it was still fucking bleeding.
Yeah.
That was another crazy story. Louis gets the other knee. This is probably 10 years later. Louis gets the other knee scoped
Yeah.
at the left one, I believe. And we're in the old Demarest location, which was what made Westside Barbell famous, where all the videos were shot.
Mm.
And I walk in to squat with the crew, and Chuck and Louis, and I want to say Dave Tate, and maybe Kenny Patterson and a couple other guys, all world record holders and all badasses, were on there. And I'm coming in to squat with them, and I'm squatting close to 900 at the time, so I can squat with the big boys. And Louis in a fucking ace bandage and this other thing, and Chuck is berating him the entire time. "You're fucking lazy." He knew what to say to Louis to make him mad. Louis fucking bandages up his knee more and gets under the fucking squat rack and starts squatting with us. All the while, he's busting the stitches loose, and his leg is covered in blood. His entire shin, his calf, is just bleeding down into his sock. All because Chuck called him a fucking pussy and told him he wasn't going to lift that day because he's weak. And that was when I knew I was in a position of like, where the fuck am I right now? This is insane. And then Louis takes the bandage off, and you can see the sutures are just almost busted open. And he literally just had a surgery like within 1 or 2 days.
I love it.
Yeah, and not the
fucking-
smartest fucking thing in the world.
No, but that's
right?
fucking gangster.
But
I'm glad you brought that up, because I remember that story now.
I don't think there's anybody out there that could even imagine that kind of stuff these days. I mean,
Yeah.
over here anyway.
Yeah.
Dude, he had to blast so much fucking Advil and pain meds for the next month just because he wanted to do that squat.
Yeah.
And the doctor, I remember him coming into breakfast the next week, and the doctor going, "What in the living fuck? Did you fall? Like, how did you bust your knee up this bad?" "Nah, I'm fucking lifting weights, And the doctor's like, "You have lost your goddamn mind." So a lot of people don't know this, but Louis had a sleeping issue because he got trached, he had another knee surgery, and they put the wrong anesthesia in him. It killed him on the table, and they had to go through his throat to trach him in, and that's how he had all the sleep problems.
Yeah.
But I watched him. He would take an entire box of Tylenol PMs just to be able to sleep a half an hour.
Yeah.
It was difficult
It
having
makes me
like
feel a lot better about my sleep.
Yeah, it was difficult having hotel rooms with him. I remember when we went to York, PA for one meet at the York Barbell Hall of Fame, and I had a lifting room with him, and I didn't bring earplugs, and everybody else thought it was fucking hilarious. Oh, you're staying with Louie tonight, huh? And they're chuckling under their skin. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm staying with Louie. I'm fucking cool, right? Like you guys are a bunch of fags. Well, what the joke was on me because Louis can't sleep, and so Louis would snore to the point like of sound like a Harley trying to start in the bathroom. You know, like ruh, 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 ruh. I mean, it sound I can't even make the noise. It
No, I know
sounded
what you
fucking
mean.
like somebody.
My dad had
And
that.
then I'd wake up, and then Louis would be like, "God damn it!" And then he'd fucking sit up for a second, then he'd lay back down. 30 minutes later, same thing. 30 minutes later, same thing. Keeping in mind, the next day I had to squat 1,055, and I can't sleep a lick because I don't have any fucking earplugs. And I was like, dude, I didn't realize how bad it was. But he had to sleep upright in a chair because his throat was so bad.
A
But
sleep
he
app
took
wouldn't help or anything?
no, he would take a box of Tylenol PMs every fucking night to just get that kind of sleep. Which I think was probably why it cooked his kidneys so bad. That's what he ended up dying from.
Yeah.
His kidneys just basically went to zero, and they told him, "Hey, you need to be on dialysis." And he's like, "No, just take me home." And he fucking died within like a day or two. Is what the EMS guys told me.
Yeah. A big thanks to Matt Wenning for coming on the channel and sharing his amazing story and his crazy insights and experiences with legendary trainer Louie Simmons. If you get time, please go and check out his channel, Wenning Strength. It's packed full of amazing content, and Matt is a true pioneer and legend of the sport of powerlifting. If you enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe. And for the full podcast, please check the link in the description. And for the lads, I'll see you next time.